Let's follow on Hamp's question. Are higher fuel economy standards the way out of the energy crisis? Chris Miller is the Global Warming Campaign Director with Greenpeace. Marlo Lewis is Senior Fellow with the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Let's begin with you, Chris. Increasing by 2020 to 35 miles per gallon, 40% higher than where we are now. But that's by 2020. I mean, let me just say here, as a bystander, that sounds not that bad. That sounds actually pretty weak. It would seem we could do better than that.
I think that's right. It's a good first step, and there's no question that this will save a huge amount of oil and will save consumers lots of money. 35 miles per gallon is an important step. It would then increase 4% a year. So by 2030, we'd be looking at fuel economy standards of about 54 miles per gallon, which is about where we need to be. So this is a real positive step in the right direction, and we think it's worth supporting.
All right, Marlo, so in Europe and Asia, we're already close to 35, if not above that in some countries. So what is the problem with increasing fuel efficiency?
The problem is there are many problems. One is that you're going to increase the cost of automobiles. You're going to make new automobiles less affordable for the average consumer. You're also going to restrict consumer choice because people can already buy very high miles per gallon cars now if they want them. This would make it harder to buy a larger, heavier car. And more importantly, this will cause people to die. If you increase fuel economy standards, you will force automakers to reduce the average size of a car, and other things being equal, smaller cars are less crash-worthy. There's all kinds of studies.
Are highway fatalities higher in Europe?
They're higher in the United States than they would be otherwise, according to the National Research Council, because of the current.
What I'm trying to get, in Europe they already have higher fuel mileage per gallon, right? So do they have a higher fatality rate?
Well, what you'd have to do is compare the effect of fuel economy standards in Europe on safety. You just can't compare across countries.
Aaron, the answer to your question is no. If you take Great Britain, for example, their standards are higher, their cars are smaller, and their fatality rate is lower than the United States. So this is a red herring. The fact is that Mr. Lewis's side has opposed mandatory seatbelt restrictions, mandatory airbag restrictions. If we take this step forward, we're going to save American consumers money because they're going to go further on a gallon of gas. We're going to help Detroit regain the competitive edge over the Japanese automobile manufacturers, and we're going to move this country towards energy independence. This is a no-brainer. And in addition to that, we're going to take the right step for the environment by reducing our global warming pollution.
Marlo, let me ask you a question. You know, in Europe, when they make cars already, they've got factories that are set to make cars that have higher miles per gallon, right? They already have factories that can turn those cars out.
Yeah, and the reason is that those cars are smaller. They're not more efficient.
Right. I recognize
that they get more fuel efficiency because they're smaller. They're not better engineered. They're just smaller. And they also drive a lot of diesel cars there, which our clean air standards have not permitted until very recently.
But diesel, as everyone says now in the United States, is as good for the environment. I mean,
right, but in Europe they've been willing to have higher air pollution and diesels for a long time.
Right, but the new diesel that we could have would be better. What I want to get at,
you don't
Marlo,
have to mandate
why
diesels.
do you say it's going to cost more? I mean, isn't this just a decision that some people maybe chose not to invest in a while ago, and that's their own problem? And if we choose to mandate it as this country, that they go ahead and pay for it.
Because if you want a high-performance car that's rooming with towing capacity, that has the same acceleration but gets better fuel economy than it does now, you're going to have to increase the high-tech component of the car. You're going to have to make design and engineering changes, and those will raise the sticker price of the car.
There's absolutely no evidence that that's the case, Mr. Lewis. This is the same argument used against seatbelts and airbags. The fact is the technology exists today to drastically increase fuel economy.
Airbags killed small children.
All right, you know what, Chris and Marlo, on that note, which is a totally different debate, let's hit the pause button. Thanks to both of you, though. Certainly, a lot of people get very passionate about, as you can all see.